Imagine a time when kingdoms were built not only with spears and crowns, but also with codes and algorithms. In a millennial era, when clay tablets served as the first hard drives and prophets were the precursors to the great visionaries of our digital age, the fascinating story of David emerges. Not the traditional warrior, but a man who mastered the art of turning intent into code, using his intelligence to construct an empire sustained by both tradition and innovation. Before a simple tap unleashed a wave of unimaginable consequences, there was a world where mystical technology intertwined with real power, and it is precisely at that point that our journey begins. In a kingdom where crowns yielded to glowing screens and swords were replaced by lines of code, David built an empire that transcended the limits of what could be imagined. Here, every character represented a promise of power, and every algorithm, an immutable law etched into the fabric of existence. The radiance emanating from his codes was potent enough to bring down the giants of misinformation, while his faith firewall shielded the kingdom from invasions. Yet, just as the inner child craves recognition and belonging, David carried an insatiable desire for admiration, to be unique and unforgettable. The algorithm of his glory was intrinsically linked to the vulnerability of a heart that ceaselessly sought public validation, a desire that turned into silent envy toward those who did not meet his standards of excellence. Within the depths of his vast biblical data center, filled with digital scrolls inscribed in Hebrew, the environment pulsed with the energy of a golden age. But the perfection of a system is rarely eternal. Amid all this grandeur, there was a fine line between creation and destruction, a flaw that, if not handled properly, could expose the inner workings of the empire to the chaos of obsolescence. In every command entered and every script launched, David demonstrated a balance between the sacred and the profane, between honor and unchecked ambition. This duality, deeply inspired by the 7 deadly sins, particularly vanity, envy, and lust, created an environment of constant tension, where power was both the reward and the curse. In a universe where information travels at the mere swipe of a finger, David too navigated the most seductive and forbidden corners of his own creation. A digital feed, provocatively dubbed Bathsheba, became the stage where the boundaries between desire and destruction blurred. In this space, every post and every story was wrapped in an aura of lust and exaltation, designed to attract glances and hearts. A bid to fill the void left by the relentless pursuit of validation. Here, the young guardian of the nation found himself entwined in a web of virtual passions, where clicks and likes played the role of silent vows, conspiring to erode what once was unshakable. In this realm of excess, the narrative taps into the elements of the inner child, revealing the playful and impulsive essence that lies even within the hearts of the mighty. That childlike curiosity transformed into a devastating force. Each slide toward the forbidden, every erased or rewritten message, marked a step in the escalator that would lead to his own downfall. And then anger emerged, an internal wrath, the fury of a system that, despite its might, could not escape the repercussions of its digital missteps. Thus, lust allied with guilt and wrath in a vicious cycle, where human frailties were laid bare on the screen, and echoes of the past contended with present-day alerts. Moral_compromised, Uriash.x terminated. The sheer force of these messages served as a harbinger of the chaos that was to follow, showing that amidst the seduction of impulsive actions, the empire could never avoid the impending collapse. When the first signs of disorder began infiltrating the system, every line of code started whispering the bitterness of guilt. The virus that took hold was not merely a technical glitch, but the embodiment of suppressed remorse and ignored desires, a traitor silently marching through the empire's innards. The security, once an unyielding shield guarding the heart of the system, now transformed into a desperate cry, "Reboot now?" It was as if destiny itself, relentless and unforgiving, demanded a complete restart, a reset that could erase the accumulated mistakes and grant a new chance for what remained of David's glory. Every element, insecurities, fear, the sense of abandonment, and the pain of witnessing an empire crumble, was carefully portrayed to evoke the experience of the inner child who, amid the storm, seeks shelter and safety. This virus of guilt spread like wildfire, corrupting not only the digital systems but the very spirit of the empire, forcing David to face a painful truth. Maintaining power is not secured merely by displaying strength, but by the courage to admit and correct one's own errors. In a setting where images alternated between holograms of fallen soldiers and fleeting glimpses of messages once attempted to be erased, the empire disintegrated in a spectacle of orange and red hues, colors symbolizing both destruction and the fiery passion of a heart unwilling to succumb entirely to despair. And so, the virus of guilt not only eroded the systems but also aligned the winds of fate toward an unavoidable climax, where past and present collided, demanding an intervention that would rescue the very essence of what had been built. In the shadows of an empire fading into oblivion, there remained one final alternative, the final click, the command capable of rewriting history. Faced with the ruins of what had long been venerated, David found within himself the strength to say enough is enough. The digital death of accumulated errors was not the end, but rather the harbinger of a rebirth. With a deliberate gesture, that very command which once precipitated his downfall transformed into a symbol of redemption. In a scene merging technology with spirituality, the simple act of pressing "reboot" sent shockwaves through the system, invoking the sacred words of the Psalms and bathing every cell of the empire in a golden light. This final click did not erase the mistakes of the past, instead, it redefined each error, turning every line of code into a new opportunity for a fresh start. The metaphor was clear: just as software can be updated, each of us has the capacity to restart our own story. True strength lies not in denying imperfections, but in the courage to confront and transform them into valuable lessons. At this moment of epiphany, the narrative draws on elements of love and security, tenderly reuniting with that inner child who, though bruised, yearns to be embraced. The empire was being rebuilt not solely in technological terms, but as a return to the very essence of being, a reunion marked by authenticity, the freedom to simply be, and above all, the capacity to rewrite one's destiny. And so, with a fusion of the old and the new, between sacred values and the challenges of modernity, David not only restored a kingdom but reinvented himself. Every byte, every piece of code, assumed a new function: to hold memories, to liberate dreams, and to allow history to continue echoing through the corridors of time in a renewed form. In this era of constant change, where digital networks serve as arenas for struggles, passions, and reconciliations, It is crucial to reconnect with the essence of our inner child, the part of us that refuses to settle, that continually seeks love, freedom, belonging, and above all, the truth that resides in our heart. David's empire teaches us that even in the face of failures and mistakes, there is always an opportunity to start over, to update our systems, and to build a legacy that withstands the test of time. As the screens fade and history is rewritten, the invitation remains. What digital legacy will you leave behind? Which codes will you reprogram to transform not only your own narrative but also that of the world around you? In every second lies the chance for a new beginning, and with every click, the power to renew. Ultimately, we are all responsible for keeping the flame of innovation and authenticity burning, transforming our personal empire into something that resonates for eternity.